This week on the Analog Circle podcast, we get some pretty promising information about 2K's upcoming football game. The upcoming PlayStation 5 title, Spider-Man Miles Morales, could come with some bonus content that could be amazing. No pun intended. Mad Booty gets a little bit more in-depth about the upcoming Xbox Series X title Fable, and Microsoft's Flight Simulator 2020 uses a feature that could revolutionize gaming. All of these stories and plenty more can be found here in episode 139. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and I truly want to say, welcome to the podcast. It is so good to have you guys here to spend just a little bit of time with me as we go over this beautiful gaming culture. It can be beautiful, sometimes it can be a little toxic, but let's try to concentrate on the beautiful side of it, brothers and sisters. Now, without further ado, I guess you can't have one without the other though, right? But anyway, I want to go ahead and jump into the gaming news that went down. But before we get into the gaming news, if you want to be a part of the show, if you want to let your voice be heard, you can call in at 443-216-9934, or you can email the show, and the email address is the analogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. So without further ado, let's get into it. So let's get things started with Matt Booty, who sat down with The Guardian to talk about Fable. Now, Matt Booty explained why he decided to go with Playground Games to develop the next Fable. And I quote, he says, "I just look at what Playground has done with the Horizon series. That attention to detail, the ability to represent these naturalistic landscapes. They also have a real passion for the IP and a unique point of view on what's core to Fable. Everything I've seen as the game progresses tells me this is going to be a very high quality release." They also talked about the rumor that the game, that was the end of the quote, by the way, but they also talked about the rumor that the game was going to be a MMO, and Mad Booty said once again, and I quote, "With any kind of franchise like that, where you've had existing versions, there's always that balance between what you're going to bring forward, what still stands up, and what you want to add that's new. It's like the challenge of making a new Star Wars movie. There's stuff that everyone wants you to bring along, but then you've got a responsibility to that. And then he says, to new places, and I trust Playground has a good vision for that." Now, Matt even talked about technology, where he said, and I quote, "We're at a point where the technology is out of the way. In previous generations, the hardware and its limitations would leave a pretty clear fingerprint on a game. I remember the first early games that used sprite scaling. God darn, that's back in the day. Sprite scaling, and then suddenly every game had all these objects flying around the screen. You'd build a game around technical advances like that. But now we're at a point with the tech where we can just let the stories and the characters that the team have in mind reach the screen." End of quote. So here it seems like Mad Booty, the reason why he handed this off to Playground is their pedigree, their attention to detail. Like he said, the Horizon series, when they implemented the weather into the game, God dog, a lot of people were highly impressed with that level of detail. And Mad Booty saw these guys. He also said that these guys were passionate about the Fable IP, and he liked the way that their passion for the IP came out. So he thought that they would be a perfect fit. Now, I have every hope. Let's put it that way. I have high hopes that Playground Games can do this. They can be great at it. It's their first crack at anything outside of a racing game, the racing genre. I think that, that pedigree, that skill that these guys have, I think that that's going to shine through and through for sure. Absolutely. At least that's what I want to believe, guys. I want to believe that. But, as far as the game going MMO, he was basically saying, with any franchise, you gotta, people want you to take certain things. You gotta bring certain things to the table, things that are different, some things that are the same. It seems like it could be a situation where it could possibly end up maybe being a MMO light. He didn't really answer the question right out. He just said that with any IP, basically you have to do that balancing act of keeping things the same, but bringing things into the IP that are new and kind of updated. So that could be up for debate. I don't know if they'll go as far on the MMO side as the original Fable was supposed to be. What was it? Fable Legends, I believe. They got canceled. I don't think they're going to go that far, but I'm sure Matt Booty, he's going to have his team try to thread that thin line and maybe bring some new things to the franchise, which it does need to be updated in certain aspects. The last Fable was years ago, and it would be great for them to actually update the game with certain things, but don't stray too far from what the core of Fable is. But, as far as everything else goes, I'm really excited. The technology, according to Matt Booty, it's here, and they can concentrate on having the characters reach the screen the way that they want. But, the jury's still out. We'll have to see if Playground Games can make this an amazing game. I believe they have the skill set to do it. Horizon was a fantastic racing game. I'm not going to sit up here and act like, I was Horizoning it up, brothers and sisters. No, I was not. I'm not the biggest racing fan out there, not at all. But I do recognize when a developer is very talented at what they do. And Playground Games, to say the least, they have done amazing things with the Horizon IP. So I have all hopes that they'll be able to do the same and bleed that same development, that same keen eye of detail into the Fable franchise. Let's go ahead and move into some PlayStation news. Let's go ahead and talk about PlayStation because Sony has some lofty, huge goals for the PlayStation 5 because allegedly a source that's close to the PlayStation 5's manufacturing plans has told DigiTimes that Sony is estimating that the PlayStation 5 will sell between 100, these numbers are just ridiculous, 120 to 170 million units from 2020 to 2025, which, like I said, this is freaking insane. Now, let's put this in perspective. Now, it took them 7 years to sell 110 million PlayStation 4s. And what I would say personally is their best generation when it came to their first party exclusives. Also on a side note, Sony said that they won't be retiring the PlayStation 4 until at least 2022. But do you guys think that that is possible? Do you guys think that Sony is starting to, I'm not going to say they're getting cocky. I don't think Sony is going to do that. Hopefully not again. The way Microsoft is going, I don't know. They're giving them some ammo to be able to be a little cocky, puff their chests out a little bit because Microsoft ain't really challenging them right now. But do you think that they could legit move 120 to 170 million units in 5 years? Is that possible? I understand that Sony has had a knockout generation, this whole generation from 2013 until now. They have constantly made Game of the Year contender after contender after contender. But even with that pedigree, do you guys think that they could sell 120 million units in 5 years. When keep in mind, it took them 7 years to get to the 110 that they're at right now, with what I would say has been doggone near a flawless generation. I don't think you could ask for a company, a gaming manufacturer, to have a better generation than what PlayStation put forward in this generation. And with that being said, they still once again sold 110 million, which is staggering numbers. But they are saying they are going to sell 120 to 170 in 5 years instead of 7. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. I'll be interested to see. I mean, Microsoft, they're losing mind share by the day, brother. They really are. A lot of Xbox fans, I've been listening to various podcasts, and a lot of guys are highly upset with what they saw on Microsoft stage, and they said they are jumping ship over to the PlayStation brand. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting, but I think I've held up you guys enough with this subject. But let's go ahead and let's move on into some more Sony news. Let's just keep this Sony train moving, because over on Reddit, a user who goes by the name U/77good123 posted a picture of their Game Informer where the user highlighted an article that talks about Spider-Man Miles Morales that said, and I quote, "Miles Morales isn't a traditional sequel since it comes bundled with a remastered version of Insomniac's Spider-Man that takes full advantage of the PlayStation 5 hardware," end of quote. And just to add a little more authenticity to this story, you can find the quoted text in issue 327 of Game Informer magazine. But when Insomniac was asked about this, they had no comment. So, as always, until they come out and officially want to acknowledge that it's true, take it with a mustard seed of truth. But I would say, what if during, and I know I have these grand thoughts in my mind that things are going to happen, and they usually don't, and I wind up disappointing myself. But in this upcoming, we're going to talk about it, man. But how cool would it be that not just Miles Morales on the PlayStation 5, but a remastered version of the doggone original Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4 is packed in with that game? That's amazing bang for the buck. So then that 5 to 10 hour argument, that goes out the window, because if you are getting a Spider-Man game totally remastered for the PlayStation 5, faster loading times, I'm sure 4K textures, higher frames per second, I mean, just putting the works on this game, that's an amazing value. But once again, it's not confirmed, but that Game Informer, they did say that. Insomniac pointed that out. So we'll have to wait and we'll have to see if this actually does happen. Let's go ahead and let's get into the next story. Because let's see, this next story doesn't come with much info, but some of you might remember during the June PlayStation 5 reveal event, Square Enix showed off a game called Project Athia, which was a pretty vague trailer. Well, since then, Square Enix president Yuzuki Matsuda has confirmed a few things about this title. Now, when he spoke with Japanese outlet Weekly Tokyo Kenzai Plus, where he said, and I quote, the game Project Athia, which we will release on PlayStation 5, is an open world style game in which users can freely move around the game world. End of quote. Now, Square described the game as a, quote, thrilling story-led, action-packed adventure, End of quote. Now, Matsuda even got into how the PlayStation 5's version will stack up against the PC version. Quote, PlayStation 5 dramatically improves video technology, such as with the implementation of light reflecting ray tracing technology compared to what you see on PC. It is nearly identical. By utilizing these special traits, we're able to create incredible, precise imagery. End of quote. So once again, here it is, another developer, another person pointing out these amazing things with the PlayStation 5, light reflecting, ray tracing technology compared to what you see on PC. Now, I understand that right now, the Xbox Series X, they are absolutely 100%. It is no denying it, the more powerful console. But when I hear things like this, when I hear developers always, just bigging up the PlayStation 5 and saying how great it is. And I understand, once again, these games are on the PlayStation 5 brand. I don't think Project Athea is even in development for the Xbox Series X. So it only makes sense that they would big up the platform that their game is going to appear on. But I'm saying this to say that still, even other developers have been constantly saying how they're impressed with the PlayStation 5. And I'm saying all of this to say, I guess, I don't know if we're going to see. I want to see it. Trust me, I want to see the difference between the Series X and the PlayStation 5, but I don't know if it's going to be as big of a difference as we were hoping, because once again, we can only go off of what Microsoft has shown us thus far. And with that showcase, nothing on that showcase, that entire showcase to me said next generation. Whereas when I saw Ratchet and Clank, I saw Horizon 2, and not so much Spider-Man Miles Morales. You could say that could have ran on the PlayStation 4. I would agree with you on that. But that Ratchet and Clank, and like I said, Horizon 2, I said, God dog, those joints look stellar. So we have yet to see that with the Series X. And, hopefully we will, but only time will tell. I don't think that it's going to be that big of a difference, but we're going to see. Let's go ahead and move on into the next story. Now, I don't think I have to tell y'all this, but my thoughts about Flight Simulator hasn't had me bubbling with excitement. But I read this article from Tony Polanco, who he actually hosts the Throwdown podcast. And I talk to him from time to time on Twitter, but, he's a cool dude. But his article was initially about what the specs of your PC would have to be to run the game. But as I read his article, he had this section called, quote, why the Microsoft Flight Simulator hype. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And he broke down one of the most amazing features I have ever heard of in a game. He said, and I quote, Microsoft Flight Simulator uses Bing Maps data and Microsoft's own Azure cloud computing service to provide a real-time Earth simulation. You'll not only fly over accurately replicated three-dimensional topographical terrain, but also contend with real-world weather effects. For example, if it's raining in the real Seattle, it's raining in video game Seattle. This creates a truly dynamic gaming experience that's different from the last. End of quote. Now, if you want to check out the article, the full article for yourself, it's over at PC Mag if you want to do that. But I have to make a correction. According to the head of Microsoft Flight Simulator, though, the game will release, because before I was saying that this was going to be an exclusive. I kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but a couple of weeks ago, I was saying that this was going to be an exclusive. It was only going to be on the Microsoft Store and no other platforms. But that's where the correction comes in. According to the head of Microsoft Flight Simulator, the game will release day and date on Steam, which is August 18th, just like it will on Windows 10. And to twist the knife deeper. Now, keep in mind, this isn't on the Xbox platform right now. It's only available on PC. But just to twist that knife a little deeper, the game is getting VR support for the HP G2 Reverb, which will be available later this fall. Now, George Newman, who is the head of Flight Simulator, also said as far as VR goes, quote, "We're going to bring it to all the devices, all the common ones. It's just going to take a few more months after that." End of quote. Microsoft, where is the VR? God dag, Phil. Why not give your player base the choice of VR? But look, I'm not going to turn this into a, why this, why that. But I do want to talk about this cloud computing. That is absolutely stunning. That is something I have talked about on this podcast for not years, but you guys will hear me bring it up every once in a while, where with the Dreamcast, I thought that this was going to happen because certain holidays, like I talked about, certain games will be themed after that holiday, like the Christmas holiday or, the 4th of July, something like that. It would be certain games. I think Ready to Rumble did it, where it would change according to what day it was. And I said, man, this is amazing technology. Where is it at? When is there ever going to be a game where what I'm doing in the game actually reflects the real world? What's going on in the real world? And here you have Flight Simulator. Once again, I am in no way, shape, or form. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I'm kind of a little excited about it now because those graphics, God dog, those graphics are incredible on Flight Simulator. But just the fact that they are taking real-time Earth simulation, and if you're flying the plane and it's a snowstorm, let's say in Nebraska somewhere, and you're flying over Nebraska and in the game, it's the same snowstorm going on. That is incredible detail. Please, other developers, bring this to some goddaggone games, man, just for the immersion of it all. I mean, that really, to me, I can't speak for anybody else. Other people might say, man, it's not that big of a deal to me, and I understand, I get it. But for me, this is like almost a semi-dream come true. I just hope that more developers will take advantage of this technology and use it, because this is something I don't think we've ever seen in gaming before. So I have to give credit where it's due. That is an incredible feature. And I'll say, man, like I said, good grief, that don't even make sense. But what I said before, the graphics, I mean, the game looks really good. And then just to bring out, like they were saying that you'll actually, well, what Tony Polanco was saying, having that, almost like 1-to-1, recreation of the virtual world versus the real world. I was looking at this guy, he was playing Flight Simulator 2020, and he lived in Canada, and he was actually pointing out different marks on the map of different places. Like, he was like, that's the water plant over there. I know that. That looks, pretty much like that. Then he was talking about other buildings, other manufacturing buildings in the area, and he was pointing them out, saying, yep, that's pretty close. He said not all of it was 1-to-1, but it was darn close, man. I mean, like I said, he could make it out for himself. So that's just incredible to me. Great technology. And, once again, I just hope other games use that technology to immerse us into the virtual world and the real world kind of at the same time. But anyway, let me go ahead and move on to the next story. I didn't mean to harp on that one as long as I did, but let's go ahead and let's get into the next story. So around 2 or so weeks ago, we got the release dates for Marvel's Avengers beta, but now we have in-depth details on what the beta will include. Now, the beta will include the entire Golden Gate Bridge sequence from A-Day Prologue, which will introduce you to the controls. Now, after the prologue, that was a dope prologue too, man. Y'all remember that? God damn, it was nice. But after the prologue, you will get access to 2 single-player hero missions, one that features Hulk. Oh, that's gonna be dope, man. That's the character I'm looking forward to playing the most. I haven't played a game with Hulk since Ultimate Destruction, so I'm pumped up about that. But Hulk is going to be one of the featured superheroes, and the other features Kamala Khan as well. I think that's the girl, the one who's like enamored with the Avengers. But anyway, the missions will include a mission to find Jarvis in the Pacific Northwest, and the other mission takes place in an underground shield base in Russia that will include cinematics and a boss fight. Now, once you complete these missions, 4 characters become available to play in a 4-player co-op that include Iron Man, Black Widow, Hulk, and Kamala. Now, the co-op can be player controlled or AI controlled. Now, this mode will have several mission types that include Horde mode, where you're taking on waves of enemies, 5 war zones, which are giant battle areas with objectives, and last is drop zones, which are smaller single objective encounters. Now, overall, this demo, I gotta say, overall, man, it sounds pretty massive, and it seems like Square are going to do their best to sway people who may be shaky on the game, like myself. And once again, the beta starts August 7th through the 9th on PlayStation 4. It's going to be August 14th through the 16th for Xbox One and PC. And August 21st through the 23rd is open for everyone who didn't pre-order. They were saying something like this demo was supposed to be, and I don't want to misquote it, but it seemed like it would take 4 hours. I believe Crystal Dynamics said, I'm not 100% sure, but it was a lengthy demo that they were talking about here. And I mean, just all of the things that they're including in this demo, like I said, it truly seems like Square Enix, they want to win back that excitement and the positivity that all of us had when we first heard that this game was coming out. And when I saw that first trailer, man, that first official gameplay trailer, brother, I was sold. Man, I was sold. Like, boom, take my money, Crystal Dynamics, you got it. But then, when we saw some more of that gameplay, brother, I was like, oh, shucks, I don't know. Thor's looking a little, looking a little shaky. But I do commend them for actually doing this, giving us such a big in-depth look into a game. Usually we don't get this because a lot of time developers, I'm sure they say, well, look, we don't want to give them too much because then that might, kind of have some people just want to back off of it because they didn't like what we gave them. Because it was a time, man, demos would be rampant, man. And game magazines, I would get certain game magazines just for the demo disc alone every single month. And it was no problem to get them. But then as years went on and then it went home where you could download the demos, and now it's like we get them, but we rarely get them for big games that are coming out. It hardly ever happens. So for this to be one of the bigger games of the year, once again, I commend Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics for putting this out there for players to actually get their hands on it. And it's also dope as well that even if you didn't pre-order the game, you still will be able to play the game from the 21st to the 23rd. I really hope that things turn out really good with this one. And I'm very excited to see what happens. And also, it's another rumor going around. Now, who knows if this is true or not? I mean, I just heard this literally yesterday, which was Saturday? Yeah. Where they were saying that Spider-Man is going to be a PlayStation 4 exclusive character to the Avengers. I said, God, dog, I'm crazy with that be that they actually get Spider-Man as a playable character in the Avengers game. That could definitely sway some people to pick the game up on the PlayStation 4. And I mean, it's going to be backwards compatible, or compatible at least, with the PlayStation 5 with enhancements. So, whoo, that's going to be interesting if that turns out to be true. But let's go ahead and let's get into the next story. Now, I would say this next story really threw me for a loop in a good way. Now, I guess I would say the news it's not earth shattering, but 2K Games has struck a deal to include, listen to this, is so dope to me, because they did something I didn't think they were going to be able to do. But the 2K Games has struck a deal to include actual NFL pros in their upcoming football game. Now, here is the quote from the company's president, David, I always get his last name messed up, but I'm going to try, Ismailer, who said, and I quote, "We're thrilled to be working with the NFLPA and one team to bring the biggest and best stars in football to the games we're working on." End of quote. Now, according to a press release that was shared by Game Informer, the deal reportedly includes access to over 2,000 current NFL players who 2K will now be able to render into their upcoming NFL football game that's supposed to release next year. All I could do when I heard this was just clapped it up for 2K, because I did not think this was going to be a move that they were going to do. You guys remember the AFL game? Yeah, they were real superstars from like back in the day. I'm talking like Jerry Rice. That brother's a legend. But God dog, people want to play with the new NFL players of today in today's league. And just the fact that they were able to get that deal inked and they're going to have over 2,000 current NFL players, that said to me, man, these guys are going to compete. Now, once again, I understand that it can't be a simulation Madden. I get it 100%. Whether the game is going to be like a Blitz clone or kind of like EA used to do back in the day with NFL Street, I don't 100% know what angle 2K is going to take, but just the sheer fact that they were able to get real NFL players, real NFL names to be in their upcoming football game, that is a W for me. That's a big win, in my personal opinion, that they were able to pull that off. So that made me even more excited about this upcoming. It's not an NFL game as it were, but it's going to be NFL players, so whatever kind of game it's going to be, I'm just excited and so happy that they were able to pull this deal off. I mean, let's go 2K, let's go! Let's move on to the next story. Now, one of my favorite developers, oh my gosh, one of my absolutely favorite developers has announced that they are working on a next-gen action adventure game. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, God dog, it is People Can Fly, who made my favorite first-person shooter of all time, Bulletstorm. I know that's up for debate. I know you guys are probably saying, you gotta be crazy. Bulletstorm is your favorite first-person shooter of all time? Brother, I ain't never had that much fun with an FPS in my goddamn life, man. They brought the heat for me. But anyway, let me continue on with this story. But IGN, as it were, is reporting that the game isn't titled yet, but it will be a AAA experience and will be, quote, a highly ambitious groundbreaking action-adventure title. End of quote. Now, here is the direct quote from People Can Fly CEO Sebastian. I'm never going to get this brother's last name right, so I'm not even going to try to attempt it. But Mr. Sebastian, he said, and I quote, "There is electricity in the air at People Can Fly. Last year, we announced the opening of our New York studio and revealed Outriders for the first time. Today, we have surpassed 250 staff and are excited to announce the next chapter in the development of our company." End of quote. So here we have Outriders, which I'm picking that up. Just on the strength that his People Can Fly, I'm picking that up. I'm sold. I'm getting that. But not only are they having that come out, but they're also working on another next-gen title. Now, in my mind, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I said, oh, shucks, could this be the moment that I have been waiting for since 2011 ended? Could we be getting a Bulletstorm 2? Well, that's not going to happen, at least not for the foreseeable future. The developer, they did come out, they didn't close the door on Bulletstorm getting a sequel, which was great for me, but they did say that at this time they don't have any plans of working on another Bulletstorm. So that kind of stung a little bit, kind of hurt, but I understand. But I'm just saying that, hey, it keep hope alive, brother. It's not dead. And hopefully after this game releases, maybe they'll put some Bulletstorm elements into the game. I just want a game to give me that feeling that Bulletstorm gave me with that whip. And you just pulled the enemy to you and it slowed down and it was the kill with skill, doggone mechanic. Just incredible. So I'm just hoping and looking forward to whatever, not hoping, I just should have said looking forward to this upcoming title. But yes, I am hoping that eventually they will circle back around and pick up for a Bulletstorm 2. Anyway, I mean, the staff is growing. They got a New York studio. I mean, come on, People Can Fly. Come on, brother. Let's go ahead and move on into the next story. Let's go ahead. This is a good one right here. Let's back into some more PlayStation news. Now, we know that Sony is allegedly having a show in August, but we don't have a date for it right now. But this is according to Industry Insider, Jeff Grubb, the August State of Play should happen between August 5th and August 11th. Now, once again, Sony has not confirmed this, so take it with a mustard seed of truth. But I'm going to tell you, man, what I was alluding to earlier, and I had to kind of pull back from it. I'm saying if this happens, God dog, and once again, here I am, imagination spiraling out of control. I'm just saying to myself, what if they did that announcement of Spider-Man Miles Morales and you get the Marvel Spider-Man, the PlayStation 4 version packed in with the Miles Morales for the PlayStation 5, and it is enhanced, and they show some real enriched enhancements with the load time, with the graphics, with the frame rate. That would be spectacular. That would be just another thing for me. As I am a PlayStation fan, I prefer Xbox. I've said it time and time again, but that light is starting to dwindle. On the Xbox side, it's starting to fade away little by little by little. And I'm going to bring something up a little later that made the light fade even more for me on the Xbox side. But for PlayStation, and these are all big ifs here, if they showed that Miles Morales is going to be Spider-Man is going to be packed in with Spider-Man Miles Morales with the updates, and they show God of War, the PlayStation 5 version, is just a teaser. I know that's lofty. It might not happen, but if they do that, and then they show off IP from the PlayStation camp that's been dead for a while, and it's one that I care about, that I really want to see make a comeback, that could be the deal breaker for me. I was already getting a PlayStation 5 on day one because they showed me enough at their showcase. But if they can bring those other titles along to the platform as well, or those announcements, I should say, along with the platform too, God, dog, you got me, shoot, man, line and sinker, brother. I mean, that's it. That is it. If you ask me even today, which one would I get first? Would I get the PlayStation 5 or would I get the Series X? Brother, hands down, I'm going with the PlayStation 5, brother, 100%. But we're going to see. This will be interesting if this happens. That would mean that would happen before the end of the week if it happens the 5th. That, man, anyway, I don't know, man. Just a cool thought. Hopefully it does. I'll be tuned in, glued to probably won't be my TV. I'll probably be on the road, but I'll be glued to my phone as it's going on. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into some quick news here. The game Little Devil Inside. You guys might remember this game. This was a game that was shown during the PlayStation 5's their E3 conference. I called it a showcase, a game showcase. It was just their E3 conference, as it were. They showed this game off, and it was the game I was talking about that reminded me of Osmosis. I don't know if you're inside the body or if you're outside of the body. That game is actually coming to the Switch. That's a game that's coming. And the interesting thing about this game was it was initially supposed to have come out on the Wii U, but it didn't make it. So once again, it's no release date on when it's going to happen, but it will be coming to the Switch. I believe they had started a GoFundMe. They got the money up, it cleared, and some kind of way it missed the Wii U. But from them not actually talking about a release date, I'm thinking that maybe the game will come out on the Switch a little after it releases on the PlayStation 5, but nobody knows for sure. They might come out at the same time. Who knows? But yeah, if anybody that was interested in that game like I was, it is coming to the Switch. But let's go ahead and get into some more quick news. Now, it was confirmed that Star Wars Squadrons will be playable on PlayStation 5 and Series X, and this info is coming down from creative director at EA Motive, Ian Fraser, who said, and I quote, "We're not planning a separate version of the game for the next-gen consoles, but yes, the backwards compatibility should work." End of quote. Now, I thought this was really good news for upcoming PlayStation 5 owners because it's been said that the original PlayStation VR will work with the PlayStation 5. So who knows, with all of that extra power under the PlayStation 5's hood, it might make the game run a little better than it would on the PlayStation 4. So who knows, that could be another deal, not a deal breaker. I mean, I don't want to get all just so melodramatic here, but just seeing that is an option, that if you get the PlayStation 4 version, it's going to be compatible with the PlayStation 5, and you know that the VR is going to be compatible, that could be a make or break for some people versus getting it on the Series X because you have that extra option. But that, once again, I do want to stress that he did say that they're not planning on, making any enhancements to the game. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to another quick story. And I didn't think this was still happening, but Battletoads, holy smoke, Battletoads is finally releasing on August 20th. On Game Pass, and it will feature 3-player co-op. Now, when I saw this game for the first time, I have no problem saying, I said, what the frick is this? What is happening here? Quality control, Microsoft, quality control. What is going on here? But I ain't gonna lie. I saw that latest trailer. Yeah, I peeped it out. And I said, golly, hey man, you just don't look too bad, brother. I mean, it don't look bad at all. It looks okay. It kind of put me in the mindset of, what was it, Streets of Rage 4? Kind of that art style. It looked a little better. It looked like it was running better. Textures, it looked a little better. I'm not saying it was a masterpiece or anything like that, but I said, man, this doesn't look too bad. I ain't gonna lie, man. at the right price. No, you know what? No, I can't. No, man. I am the problem, brother. I talk about other people being the problem, supporting all of these double A's and whatnot. Brother, I gotta call myself out. Like my brother Z says on his show, The Broadband Bullies. If I had the option, I'd put myself in the Captain and Coonan room right now. Because, brother, I say that that's the problem. We need to stop supporting Microsoft with all of these double A experiences. And here I go, brother, saying, I don't know, man. For the right price, I might pick that up. God dang. Gotta get my gaming priorities and god dang on order, brother. Anyway, anybody that's interested, August 20th, the game will be released on Game Pass. I don't know how much it's gonna be if you get it just as a separate game, maybe $20. But also, yeah, I did want to say though, that 3-player co-op, that was something that was added because you guys remember at one time, it wasn't even going to have co-op in the game. So just the mere fact that they were able to include that into the game, I'm taking it that they took the feedback that happened. They saw all of those thumbs down on the YouTube video and they said, okay, let's go ahead. Let's take this back to the drawing board and let's try to polish it up and make it a little better than what it was. But, let's go ahead and, let's get into some alleged news that has come out about the PlayStation 5's DualSense controller. And I know it's been a pretty heavy PlayStation news week this week. I mean, I've been pretty heavy with that news, but so much has come out about that platform. But as far as the DualSense controller goes, this info was found over on Reddit. So once again, as always, like I've been saying a lot in this episode, take this info with a mustard seed of truth. But in the Reddit article, it was talking about how the buttons felt similar to the DualShock 4 and how the L1 and the R1 buttons felt like triggers and the R2 and L2 buttons felt tighter. Now, the Reddit report also brought up that the LED light on the touchpad of the DualSense was dimmer than the PlayStation 4's controller, which is a good thing. But what stood out to me the most was they talked about the battery life of the controller, which once again, Sony has not confirmed this, but it's being said that the battery will last 3 to 4 hours longer than the DualShock 4's battery life. So a lot of people used to complain about the PlayStation 4's, their DualShock, the DualShock's battery life. I never really got that, brother, because for mine lasted hours, man. I mean, I haven't done any math on it, like put a stopwatch on it and let's see how long it lasts. Literally, no. But I'm usually able to get through whatever gaming session I'm having without having to put it on the charge, as long as I go into it with the controller being fully charged or even half charged most of the time. I can get through, a little bit of playtime with it. But for people that do have a complaint about it and say that the battery life was shorter, they didn't like it, it was too short, and they had to put it on the charger, it looks like if this is true, Sony has heard your complaints and that they are allegedly, once again, over on Reddit, they're saying that it will last 3 to 4 hours longer than the DualShock 4. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into another quick story. Now, this is y'all heard me talk about that glimmer of light, right? That's slowly going down. For the Xbox brand for me. It's slowly, man, man, good grief. It's really looking dark out here a little bit. But just to add to the darkness, Cuphead is out on the PlayStation 4. I guess this is not a typo, folks. Cuphead is on the PlayStation 4. Now, when I saw this, I said, this can't be real. Nah, this can't be right. Not at all. But it is there. Now, I said, well, hey, maybe they're going to talk about the DLC. Maybe that's coming. And they did, but they didn't say much. They said, as far as the DLC is concerned, the delicious last course, MDHR simply said, and I quote, still working hard on it, but it's taking us a little longer than we thought. End of quote. So I said, well, okay. this is still going to be an exclusive. I'm sure this is going to be exclusive to the Xbox brand, and that's going to be that. Nah, MDHR also confirmed that the DLC will be available on all platforms day one. Day one. Now, this just goes to show the thinking behind the Xbox brand, because I went back, because I couldn't believe this. I said, wow, day one? I thought this was not. Anyway, I went back to a article over on Digital Trends that was dated July 5th, 2017, where they pointed out that a fan on NeoGAF asked about the development process, and MDHR confirmed that the game would never come to PlayStation or any other consoles. And it's interesting because as of the writing of that article, Microsoft had the publishing rights to Cuphead. I understand Studio MDHR, yes, they do own the IP, but I would have to imagine that Microsoft had to greenlight this to happen, and now not only is another exclusive totally gone, because people tried to rationalize, well, when it went to the Switch, Nintendo's really not competing. They're not really a threat to Microsoft. Not really. So people kind of swept that under the rug. PC, ain't nothing we can do about that. That's whatever. PlayStation is even putting some of their games on PC. Not day and date, though, but they're doing that as well. But to me, like I said, now it's on the guy dog on PlayStation 4. That is direct competition. And to me, like I said, they had to have greenlit this, and in some capacity, if they have the publishing rights, they had to have said, you know what, MDHR, go ahead and do your thing. And I mean, I hear Phil has said for years that he doesn't want exclusives, but my gosh, the PlayStation 4 has Cuphead after. MDHR said 3 years prior that it will never come to the PlayStation or other consoles. Once again, Microsoft cracked that door, let the Switch get a copy, and that was just ball game. This says to me that it just gives me less of a reason to care about their console. I get it, the backwards compatibility, I ain't gonna front, that could really kind of bring me back in, because my backlog is ridiculous right now. To have the better textures and the faster loading times and, some of the enhancements, that definitely is a plus on their side. But I'm about the exclusives. Third party, you get them everywhere, so it doesn't matter what platform you get. Well, I don't even know about that anymore, because certain times we've seen this over the years and years of gaming, especially last generation to this generation, I would say, where certain companies, they get the marketing rights, which means they get certain DLC, they get certain characters, they get certain maps, they get certain missions, so I can't even say that third party doesn't wholeheartedly matter. I mean, if you're a fan of a certain franchise, then what they're possibly offering on one platform versus the other could sway you to go in the opposite direction. And the way that Phil has been talking, he is not interested in any exclusivity. So who's to say that years down the line, we might not see a Halo on the guy dog on PlayStation 5. Now, I understand y'all probably saying you out of your freaking mind. Yeah, I probably am. Would Sony green like that? Probably not. Who the frick knows? But it just says to me that Microsoft, they're just showing us more and more. I guess the point of this that I was making is they're showing us more and more that they care less and less about exclusives. And when you care less and less about exclusives, that must mean that to a certain point, you want to go third party. So we're going to have to keep our eye on this, man. And, well, we don't have to, but, it's going to be interesting to see how Microsoft maneuvers in this upcoming generation, because they're already starting at a major disadvantage. And you guys might say, well, what is the disadvantage? They have the power. They have, They got Game Pass. They got, whatever the frick they got, man. They got a couple of things here, brother. I'm all jumbled up right now. But they got a few things working for them, man. But the thing is that it always comes down to what games do you have, brother? What do you have in your chamber locked and loaded to give to the gamers? That's what we care about the most. So Microsoft, I really want to see you compete. I want to see you win because we need you to win. So, and maybe not even win, but just compete. So that PlayStation doesn't get stagnant out here and gets too comfortable. They're already talking about their numbers of their upcoming PlayStation 5 are going to totally eclipse what the PlayStation 4 was able to do in 7 years. They're saying they're going to be able to do it in 5. So their confidence level is at a major high level right now. And we do not need cocky Sony coming back up to the plate because we know how that ends. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's get into the final story this week. Since I'm talking about Microsoft, I might as well end on a positive note. Let's end on a positive note with Microsoft. It was a tweet that went out from 343 Industries that said, and I quote, "Halo is for everyone. We can confirm #Halo Infinite multiplayer will be free to play and will support 120 frames per second on Xbox Series X." End of quote. I'm not gonna lie. This is a huge move. This is big. Halo Infinite going free to play. That's awesome, man. I mean, listen. It didn't do it for me with the graphics. It wasn't the graphical showpiece that I was hoping it would be. Gameplay, it looked okay. It looked all right. You know what I'm saying? But it was not a standout by a long shot. But I will say that them making this move, making the multiplayer free to play and the standout of this, once again, I love giving credit where it's due, is that the multiplayer is going to be at 120 frames per second on the Xbox Series X. That's really, really impressive. So shout out to them for that move. I'll be interested to see how this all works out in the end. Will this attract more players to the Halo universe? Will, younger kids of earlier generations of gaming really jump into Halo Infinite and really enjoy it, make the brand grow, get it back to circulating around in gaming and being that popular IP that it was back in the mid 2000s, like 2001, 2002. That's not the mid 2000s, I know, but when Halo 3 came out, what was that, 2008 or so? How am I saying the mid 2000s? We only in 2020. What the world? Anyway, man, y'all know what I'm saying. Anyway, that is the end, god dog, of the gaming news this week. Man, oh man, I talk too much. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's get into the final section of the podcast. Now, my question to you guys is, are you buying next-gen consoles based on price or games? That's what I want to know. Price or games? What is going to be the factor for you? Because I've been hearing around here in the gaming streets, I'm sure you guys have too, that is the one ace in the hole that Microsoft has on their side possibly. If they undercut PlayStation, they could be the force. And I believe that at one point until I saw the games and I was like, oh, I don't know, brother. I don't know at all. I don't think that's gonna be it. But I'm interested to know, what would it be for you if they did undercut the PlayStation 5, let's just say by $50, and let's just go bananas and let's just say even $100, and that's at the extreme side of the spectrum. But if they are cheaper, if the Xbox brand is cheaper, or even the PlayStation brand, if they're cheaper than the Xbox Series X, would that be, even if you wanted an Xbox Series X, but the PlayStation was cheaper, would you go with the PlayStation because of the cheaper price point? Or, as it stands right now, and everybody has their own personal preference, would you go, even if the PlayStation 5 was more expensive, would you go with the PlayStation 5? Because yeah, the price might be a little higher, but I know those games are going to be extremely well done. That's my question to you guys. Are you buying next gen consoles based on price or games? Me personally, it's always, the games are the thing that I'm in it for. The price, yes, it could possibly sway me, but you gotta have the catalog of games for me to get with you. But I would love to get you guys' opinions on this. If you want to be a part of this conversation, you can do it two different ways. You can either call in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard. Or you can email the show, and the email address is theanalogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. I was your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and I tell you, man, I have a ball every single week doing this podcast. I thank you guys so much for showing up and listening to me ramble on and on and on. It's so appreciated. Thank you guys for all of the support. And we just going to continue to keep it moving, brother. Keep on going. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, man. But don't worry, hopefully we will be back at it again next week. But until then, guys, always remember, it is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So until next week when we do it again, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.